Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today, we are going to discuss integers. At this time, please make sure that you have your math journal, have something to write with, as well as your vocabulary packet. Our target today is I can add integers. Well, let's first talk about what is an integer. Well, an integer is a whole number and its opposite. For instance, 5 is a whole number, and the opposite of 5 would be -5 because it is equal distance from 0. So here's -5, which is to the left of 0. And here is +5, which is to the right of 0. And notice they are 5 equal spaces away from 0. And so we consider them opposite of each other. Today, we're going to look at just adding them. So we are going to help Dory. Dory is lost again, and Nemo is here to help. So what we need to do is figure out, where is Dory located? Okay, so here's where Dory is, and I want you to notice here's 0. Above 0 are positive integers. Below 0 are negative integers. And I want you to notice where Nemo is. Now Nemo, he's located right now at -4. And so we're going to see which one of these problems will get us to Dory. So let's start off. So all of them start off at -4. And the first one says -4 plus a -2. What that means is we're going to start at -4. And then it says we are going to kind of face the positives. That's what this plus sign means, is that we're going to face the positives. So that means going this direction. But it says we're adding a -2. That means Nemo is actually, he's facing the positives, but he's going to move backwards too because we're adding additional negatives. So that means he's going deeper and deeper into the ocean. So now he's at -5, and then he lands at -6. Are we where, well, did we find Dory, I should say? Nope. We actually got further away from Dory, so that did not work. How about -4 plus 4? So let's start Nemo where he was before. So we'll put him at -4. And this time we are at -4. We're going to face the positives. That's what that plus means. So Nemo is facing up. And then it says +4. That means Nemo is going to move forward 4 spaces. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And where did he land? He landed 0. Is that where Dory is? Or did he find Dory, I should say? He's getting closer, but he's not quite where Dory is. So now let's try the next problem. So it says start at -4 again. And he's facing the positives. That's what positive means. So he faces up. And then it says +5. So that means he moves forward 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Woo! He is pretty close to finding Dory, but he's still not exactly where Dory is. He is at +1. So he's close, but not quite. Now, hopefully the last one works. So let's start at -4, and it says face the positives again. So we face forward or face up, and then we move forward 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And guess what? He found Dory. Yay! And Dory was at +2. So, thinking back at all the different steps that we did and the answers that we got. So this first one, we got an answer of -6. And this one, we got an answer of 0. Over here, we had 1. And then this answer was +2. Make some observations. Can you figure out some rules for adding integers? Like, what are some rules for adding integers? Okay, and so think about that. Here are some additional problems. Do your rules follow the same pattern as these 4 problems? Look at the pattern. -5 plus -2 equals -7. -11 plus -2 is -13. -6 plus 2 is -4. As I'm reading through these, are the rules that you thought of, do they fit these problems? Like, would they give you the correct answers? Would they give you these answers? 9 plus -7 equals +2. Like, will they get to the answers? And if so, then I think you figured it out on what the rules are. So let's talk about that. Well, what I noticed is that the first thing I notice is when I add 2 negatives, like -2 plus -2, any 2 negative numbers, I notice that I go further negative. I go further into the negatives, okay? I notice that if I am adding 2 negatives, again, I notice if I'm adding 2 negatives, I notice that my answer is negative. I also notice that if I'm adding 2 negatives, that my answer is actually a sum of the 2 numbers. So my answer for -3 plus -4 would be -7, because I added the 3 plus the 4 and I got 7. And then my observation before said that it has to be negative. So I'm going to put a negative in front of it. Okay. Another observation that I noticed is that if I take -1 and I add a positive number, I noticed that I actually ended up subtracting the numbers. So my answer for this would be 3, because I know 4 minus 1 is 3. And the last thing that I noticed is that when I am adding up, we'll say a positive plus a negative, I notice that my answer takes the sign of the number further from 0. So, for instance, 5 is 5 spaces from 0. -2 is only 2 spaces from 0. So my answer is actually going to be a positive number, because this 5 is further from 0 and it's positive. So I know from this observation up here that I need to subtract the numbers. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then it's going to take the sign of the positive. And here's another way of looking at it. So if 2 integers are both negative or positive, I just add them and I keep the sign, or keep the symbol. Okay, so if I'm adding -5, that's what this would look like, 5 negatives plus 7 negatives. I'm just adding them together and I'm going further into the negatives, so it'd be -12. Then if the integers are opposite of each other, I subtract and I take the sign of the smallest integer, or I don't even want to say smallest. I want to say take the sign of the integer further from 0. Because this will always be the case. It will fit everything. So let's look at some problems. Let's try it. These are the problems that I would like for you to do today for ticket problems. And I want you to try out a 3 integer problem. Here's my hint. I would start off with the two of them first. Find that answer and then take that answer and add it to the last one. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me at Carlton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again.